Hello everyone, welcome to Mind, Body and Heart Tarot Therapy. I'm here to do the reading for the full moon in Pisces that's coming on the 13th or 14th, depends where you are on the globe. um yeah, it's going to be quite a full moon, so brace yourselves. The energies are quite strong. There's a lot of interesting conversations happening at this time of the year with a lot of planets in opposition. I'm not an astrologer though, so I'm not going to go too deep into that. You can find more information on that by just looking up more information about the full moon from an astrological perspective. Now I'm just going to pull cards to feel through the energy and to see how we can work with it, really. Yeah, let's see what comes out. This is a collective reading. It's a general reading for the collective. It's not for any one particular sign. The Queen of Swords is the first card that shows up as our current energy. So it's going to be quite general. It's more about like the energy that's available for all of us. We all have our own different ways to work with this energy. Now this reading is supposed to give you an understanding of the available energies, and depends on your own mechanism and your own stories and dramas that show up in your life and the way you can apply these messages. I will do my best to give a little bit of insight of how one can work with these energies. All right, let's see what is challenging for us this particular full moon in Pisces. It's very interesting, like this Virgo Pisces polarity we find ourselves in. We have so many planets in Virgo right now, and this full moon is going to be in the opposite sign for Virgo, which is Pisces. So having always like working with two like sets of contrasts, sets of opposites, it's always very, very valuable, but it's not particularly comfortable. Okay, so what's going to be challenging for us, my darlings? Page of Wands. Okay. Interesting. What is the advice from Tarot for us as a collective? Yeah, as I said this word collective, I was just thinking about the collective consciousness, and the concept of collective consciousness was first brought up by Carl Jung, psychoanalyst. And okay, this is our advice. Beautiful. And I was thinking how tarot, it's actually, the way it's working is that it taps into that collective consciousness. It pours and takes out these archetypes that we can all relate to. And this is why we relate to these archetypes, is because they're part of the collective consciousness. And we are part of the collective consciousness. All right, so there we go. It's all about love. This is the theme of our reading. It's about love, it's about emotions, it's about balancing out our love and emotions. Yes, I'm gonna take out the clarifiers for this, but you see, I'm not surprised at all that this is where this reading is going, because Pisces energy is all about emotion, it's all about the dreaminess, it's all about the you know, it's about that flow, it's about integration, it's about relating, it's about actually Pisces, the dark side of Pisces, that it lacks boundaries at all. And what we're learning through is to find that place where boundaries aren't necessary. We need boundaries when we find triggers, and we need to protect ourselves from those triggers in order to not be part of a toxic exchange or energy dynamics. But when we are in complete flow, those come naturally, and those boundaries are not necessarily needed. We can still be quite okay with ourselves. We can have time alone, time with your partner or your family, and this and that, but the flow will kind of allow us to do this in a balanced way and not feel bad if I'm alone. Oh, I wish I was with someone now. Or if I'm with someone, oh, I wish I was alone now. This that's like kind of like Piscean flow, when things kind of really we are able to respond to our environment without resentment by allowing everything to happen the way. It's not like allowing necessarily people to take advantage of me or things of nothing of the sort. It's allowing reality for what it is and being able to respond from a place of full awareness rather than denial and shame and fear and hiding and all that. I know why this whole thing came up, but let's clarify these cards. Okay, so with the Queen of Swords, we have the Justice card. All right. Okay, here it's getting dark, so I'm not going to have a great light to do these readings, but, well, it is what it is. We have the Four of Cups with the Page of Wands as our challenge. We have the Ten of Cups with Ten of Cups as our advice. So the Spirit is really emphasizing this. And we have the Five of Swords with the Six of Pentacles as our future energy. And bottom of the deck, we have Seven of Stones, which means Seven of Pentacles, to go along with our theme of the Two of Cups. Okay, let's do this, guys. Actually, give me a second to really feel through this. And have a sip of water. All right. Okay. Okay, let's see if I can adjust this a little bit. Okay. Here we go. Hopefully it's better. So the Two of Cups comes with the Seven of Stones. The Seven of Pentacles has to do with assessment, really, in most of decks. But in this particular deck, it's called failure. So we're going to read it somewhere in the middle, actually. Because failure is too strong of a word, but it seems to be a key word in this particular reading. And it may have to do like with dealing with failure in our relationships. And the Libra season is coming right after Virgo season. We're still in the Virgo season, and that's got to do with relationships a lot. So we're I think we're feeling, well, we've been feeling for pretty much everything practical right now. And the Seven of Pentacles talks about practicalities, right? About okay, really assessing and figuring out in a very Virgo style, really. Okay, it's not, it's that in the normal deck, in the normal deck, sorry, in most of decks, like in the weight deck, you have somebody who's like really checking out the crops and assessing what to keep and what to replant and so on. You know, it's that part of September where you have the autumn is coming, fall is coming, and planting starts happening. You see the things that grew from the beginning of the year, and it's a real assessment. Well, in this deck being called failure, the Virgo energy is very, can become very critical. It's good to see what works and what doesn't, but it's also very important to see how we're taking that. If we're taking it, okay, what didn't work up until now is considered a big failure. I'm never going to touch that again. Story of my life, all that sort of thing. Then we're not really learning from the experience, right? It's just considered a big failure, and it's something heavy to hang on me again and again. It's like adding more to my emotional baggage and adding more to my list of things that I don't appreciate about myself, how I failed in this relationship, or how I failed in love, or how I failed and showing up for myself, and so on and so on. It is important at this point to keep a really cool mind, and we're going into that with the Queen of Swords here. So this is pretty much the theme of our reading, like how to cope with like our relationships, how we're going to show up, and how we're coping with what we consider to be failure. We need to keep a cool mind in this. It's amazing because you have the Queen of Swords and Justice, which talks about exactly this: keeping a balance, keeping a cool mind. I wish you could see this better. As I said, not the great light for this. Okay. Well, I hope you had a peek, because it's not going to stay like this. All right. So, sorry, it really bothers me. Well, it is what it is, as I said. What is important is to keep a clear mind because of this, because we're like how we're attaching strong words as like failure or disaster or this or this or that to emotions. Emotions aren't meant to, they're not the failure, or our actions are not, they only become failure the moment I consider it failure. Otherwise, if I manage to keep this clear mind, if I manage to stay centered, if I manage to really connect to that air energy, but the air energy that's really working for me, when I manage to do that, I can see each and every experience for as a learning experience. So when I'm making this assessment, this September, this Virgo assessment, I see what works and I see what doesn't, but nothing is necessarily to be considered a failure. I see, okay, I've been doing this for a long time and this doesn't work. Like I'm putting up the same things in my basket and I came out with the same thing and it's not working like this. Let's try to do some adjustment or some change, or to change my perspective a little bit or anything of the sort. But I can only see this when I'm in my mind, but in a clear-headed way. When I'm looking, like the Queen of Swords is as honest and as so connected to her truth and the personal truth, but also to the truth of the collective mind, let's put it this way, because she's been through all and she's learned from her experiences, right? She suffered a lot. She suffered so much that she can recognize pretty much everything that's unhealthy, that's not balancing out, that's not really helping. And she knows when to put the boundaries for when they're necessary, as opposed to this whole Piscean energy. It's good to know and to look at, have that balance, when to put the boundaries and when not to put the boundaries, when to communicate what needs to be communicated. If I'm communicating the same thing over and over again, same story, and going on a repeat mode, that's not really going to help any kind of relationship, neither with other people, neither with myself. Okay, sorry, just a moment. Okay, sorry about that. I'm back. So, yeah, with the Queen of Swords, she is able to see what's important, what is just, what is where is something hanging heavier than other thing in the balance, and she knows when to communicate, and she knows when to not communicate, and she knows when to be straight and maybe very forward in her communication, but she also knows when to stay silent and hold space for the energy to sort of balance out, you know. Okay. I think the justice card being here is really really important. And also the season, as I said, like Libra season's coming, but it's important to really focus, keep that mind energy in check. Look at what the mind, look at the stories, look at the way I relate to the stories that I tell myself. And how am I balancing out that inner critic, that this whole thing with failure, it's so important. We can be so harsh on ourselves or so harsh on other people, but actually indirectly, as we are it's so harsh with other people, we're just even worse with ourselves. What most of the time we don't realize, because we tend to compensate. Again, this is the whole thing with the balance. When we are completely out of balance, when we have like these complete opposites working, and they're completely disconnected from each other. Say that there's the part of you that's like really putting you down, the inner critic saying that you're worthless or you're good for nothing, or that you've done this and you completely failed or you fucked up. And then there's the other part of you which is pulling in the opposite direction, starting to compensate for this and starting like inflate you. Oh, but I'm doing all this so fantastically, and I'm all this and I'm all that, and I deserve more respect, and all so on and so on and so on. And that comes out as an ego flare. And that's when we start acting egoistic. That's when we start acting, we're becoming like self-obsessed, and maybe feeling like persecuted in a sense or another. Let's look at our challenge though. I like how this card is called the mixed happiness, the Four of Cups here. Four of Cups generally tells the story of somebody who's like really going within in reflection mode, but tends to be a little bit apathic, maybe going a little bit in depression. So yeah, it's like the world out there, it's kind of lacking its flavor, and one turns within. It can also mean boredom, it can also mean all that. But here, like having this whole mixed happiness, it's pretty interesting twist. I like it, because it is true, when we are like the world starts lacking a little bit of its flavor, or we want to, we start seeing other things that maybe we didn't see from within, and that can be happy. It can bring some type of happiness, can bring some time of um, opportunity. The pages are agents of transformation, and the page they're also like messengers. So we can find like hidden messages within ourselves as we turn within, but it's not that right balance just yet of this mixed happiness. It's just a four. Four is the first step into some type of stability, when we start growing, but we can get stuck in that as well. It's like, when, okay, I'm getting to this point where I'm starting like observing and seeing all these opportunities, and this and start seeing my you see, like how this guy holds this wand as if it's something absolutely fantastic. It's like, wow, it's a new discovery. He's fascinated by it. He just discovered that this actually can grow and he can use it in so many ways. This is kind of how we look at our what drives us, what gets us kicking at this point, what brings some type of happiness. And we discover this mixed happiness because this is still just a page. Is gonna grow, it needs to grow in order to mature, in order to really learn how to use this energy. So there's a mixed bag of like, okay, how to grow out of this point, how to like, I need to go through the 5 if I want to grow out of 4, and that's really uncomfortable. We're getting there. Um, and relate this like to the emotions. Still, it has to do with the way we look at relationships. Say you've been in a relationship for a long time, you go to that point of where routine settles in, and maybe, I don't know, it's not as sexuality, because this is also one energy, has to sexual energy as well, or the things that you do as a couple aren't as fun anymore, because you know that moment of being completely high on hormones is a little bit gone. It's gone, really. So now it's more like, okay, let's get to know each other into that more routine space. What do we do from here? We tend to be a little bit mixed. We're like, okay, I actually really enjoy the stability. I really enjoy getting to have that sense of emotional safety, but at the same time, I feel like I miss that part in that period when I was so in love, when I just had to look at you and I was already like off my feet, swept off my feet. So it's important to look at it, but it's great. It's a step in each and every relationship, and that can literally be in relationship with ourselves. The moment we are like starting like to get to spend more quality time with the self, starting to get to really know ourselves at a deeper level. First time we can get super enthusiastic about this and look at it and say, wow, this is fantastic. I really love this whole self-growth, self-discovery process. But then we get to hit again the things that we don't like about ourselves, and we start repeating stories and patterns, and we're like, okay, wait, I don't like this. So this is what seems to be challenging right now, looking at that mixed bag and sorting it out a little bit. With the Page of Wands is also like having the messages that we get from this we may not really truly understand them just yet, because we need to yet discover. And there's the advice. The advice is to really look at what success means to you and what happiness means to you. What's your happily ever after story? And how is it that is it that you're really planting? What is it that comes out of what you're planting? What's in your mixed bag? And how your ideal life looks like, ideal relationship, ideal family life, or whether it's with extended family, or with your parents, or with your siblings, or with your children, or the family that you create can be just a unit of 2, doesn't need to be, but friends, soul family, that whole thing. How do you really see that whole ideal? And again, see, I see the balancing out here. These two people can signify obviously a real couple with how creating a family, raising a family, but it can also mean the feminine and the masculine holding like their hands in the air. They are helping create this rainbow. They're sustaining it through balance. And that helps us really understand what's in our mixed bag, and why is it like, okay, now I don't want to get into boredom, but I also don't really feel like going out there and explore in a wild way. So what can I do with this? But focus also on the happiness that you already have. When we're starting getting into this 4 of Cups energy, we sometimes completely forget what we have. We just get a little bit apathic, and we are not seeing as I said, life kind of loses its flavor. And we know traditionally in the Four of Cups you have like a cup showing up in the air for a person who sits under a tree, and he's looking rather detached and contemplating the earth under him, or what's in his three cups in front of him. But he doesn't see a cup that shows up out of the thin air. He just doesn't see it. That's important to see. Like, look at the happiness that you already have. Look at what's the source of joy into your life, and celebrate it. Like, really, really celebrate it. Start looking at the concepts that you hold about success and family and love, partnership and love, happiness in general. And now when I'm talking partnership, it doesn't need to be necessarily romantic. Everything that we do, we're not an island. We can feel like we're an island, but we're not. Everything has to do with how we're relating with other people. And the way we're relating with other people has to do a lot with what am I putting out there, and what are my expectations? What do I give, and what do I return? And we're going right into that. I'm going to come back to this 10. I feel like there's more information there for us, but the point is, like the Six of Cups here, Six of Pentacles here. This is exactly what you're looking at, and there's the balance again. The balance. Look at the conflict. Look at what you're giving and what you're taking. Look how when you have the opportunity to be generous with your time and hold space, when you have and when you really don't. We don't need to be kind for the concept of be kind. We need to be kind when we can afford it. This person gives here when he can afford it. He needs to keep this in balance. He cannot give if he doesn't have for himself. Right? And these people are accepted with grace. So look at also, how are you receiving? We're so obsessed with giving. Oh, we gotta give this, I need to give this, I need to be generous, I need to give this in order to get something in return. So the thing is, like, having that whole energy of failure, that we fail in relationships, that we don't know the conflict, or feeling like we're giving too much. Oh, I'm always giving, I'm never getting anything back. But do you allow to receive? I notice sometimes within myself even, and also with other people, because that's how we actually see. We're finally seeing it because other people show it to us, or because I see it in myself, I finally see it in other people as well. But that whole thing, like, I keep, I'm having this energy that I feel like I'm maybe giving too much in something, or in a situation, and I'm not receiving. But then I realize, well, I'm not really allowing to receive. Somehow I deem that person incapable of giving something of value to me, so I'm all completely blocked already. So when the person talks, do I really listen, or am I just in the position, no, this person needs advice from me, or this person needs this and this from me? I'm not really open to receive. Sometimes it doesn't happen all the time, but the point is to pinpoint when that happens, and have that awareness of it and the shift. And look at the conflicts. Look at, usually traditionally this card is considered to be victory, but here it's considered defeat. And I like that, because when it's victory, it's also a hard-won victory. It's somebody like where you really need to, you're paying for that, whatever you've won there. So in this case, it's considered actually defeat, because it doesn't come in a flow. It's winning over the other person is not important. On a bigger scale of things, it's defeat. So we get defeated in the moment. We get defeated by our own ego and get stuck in this game. I'm giving too much. I'm not giving enough. This is too much. This is too little. I'm putting this in, I'm putting apples in, I want to get oranges, or why am I getting apples back? That's not what I want, or the other way, The point is balancing out, really always taking responsibility for our time, for our feelings, for what we do. Don't do things because it's expected of us. Do things, then we can do them wholeheartedly from a place of joy from a place of openness, not from a place of closeness, or when it's just expected of us. And when things happen that need to be, people do pressure us sometimes to do things that we don't want to do. We learn to say no, and we learn to communicate that with communicate like clear boundaries. And also, when we have expectations, whether we like them or not, it's better to communicate them than to say, oh yeah, sure, I'm entering this relationship knowing that maybe you want it to be open, and I'm just going along with it because I like you, but I don't really want that, and I know it in my gut that I can't put up with that, so I'm just creating trouble for myself and for the other. This is just a stupid example that just came to mind, but that whole thing, like when we go along with stuff because we just think that we really want that, but we're not. We're not really wanting this. We're not honoring ourselves, and we're not communicating our needs or what our expectations. Oh, maybe actually from this relationship, I wish I have more space. I wish I can spend more time alone. You want to meet me every day, I cannot. Or the other way around. I wish we can meet at least 3 times a week, because otherwise I cannot sustain this relationship for myself. That's not how I operate. Having knowing how much I can give and giving it, and taking in return what is being offered. Not getting stuck in like looking at when the conflict comes in, because the triggers comes in, because that's when we find out the information. I'm going to pull out a spirit message from the Rumi Oracle. We're going to see some wisdom of the heart for us all. Seems like a really healthy process to go through with this full moon. The impossible made possible. Well, there you go. There we go. We can make the impossible possible. What we think that it's a defeat and failure, and we can really open ourselves up to receive the wisdom of that experience. Why did I have to go through that experience, no matter how heartbreaking or how painful? What am I really, really learning here about myself, about the world, about love? It's always about love. It's always about like all the lessons that we go through, no matter if they're from of the earth, of the air, of the ones, is like it's the spiritual realm, it's in the my mental realm, in the emotional realm, in the physical realm. All these experiences happen so we can get closer to our place of unconditional love. That's what we're learning. Okay, the Rumi poem associated with this card says, love brings the sea into boiling and turns the mountains into a pebble. Love creates infinite openings in the dark sky and shudders in the earth with its magnitude. Definitely, love makes the impossible possible. And as I said, it's all about love in this reading. It's all about how we relate to our mind, how we relate to our bodies, how we relate to ourselves, how to relate to other people, and how we relate to humanity at large. I hope that makes sense to you. If it does, please like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you here soon. Enjoy.